Have you ever heard a new word and wondered how did it get into our language? Where it came from or what it meant? Welcome to the podcast Language in Evolution with Neologisms, which will introduce you to the exciting world of new words. We are Gracie and Catalina, and in this episode we will explore neologisms, those linguistic creations that emerge from the need to express fresh ideas, create notions, and innovate concepts. We will look into the fascinating field of neologisms, those recently created terms that appear to reflect our constantly evolving world. The topic of a diversity of neologisms is examined differently by linguistics depending on their theories, with the aid of all conceivable modification. From American English, a sizable number of new formations in the lexical composition of today's language are created, with the aid of these powers, to trend of the English language's development directly shift towards the creation of neologisms, as is abundantly visible from the study of new terms from recent decades.
For any language, this process is crucial. However, there has allegedly been a neologism outbreak in English in recent years. Each and every one of the world's most recent formations enriches it. The current decade has seen an extremely quick growth of new terms in a wide range of social areas. These terms are frequently used in the media, in fiction, and in cinematography. There are certain ways to comprehend human speech and its literature nowadays, thanks to careers like educators, journalists, and artists. They are essential to the language improvement and development. English, like other languages, is continually changing as it evolves. Its vocabulary is the versatile layer of the language. And as a result, vocabulary reacts quickly to a variety of changes in society, these civilizations, culture, and other fields. This is because words compose the majority of language, and modern linguistics is becoming more and more involved in different hypotheses on how words are formed.
The 19th century naturalistic interpretation regarding the consideration of lexical element as living organisms, which, as Alvarez de Miranda explains, are born, grow up, develop, and sometimes died, can be related to the term neologism, linked to the merge and disappearance of words, despite being a controversial idea. It nonetheless reflects an obvious truth from a lexicological standpoint, and because it is straightforward to understand, it can be successfully incorporated into the field of education. It must be understood, nevertheless, that the idea of birth race difficult because it not can be used to describe all words. Language do not bear but rather develop from previous linguistic systems, which is a key factor to keep in mind. When we talk about neologism in a wide sense, we include terms that a language takes from other language or from different variations of the same language, as well as elements that a language produces using its own rules of formation, more frequently derivation and composition.
Neologisms come in a variety of forms, and we'll discuss a few of them while providing some examples that will help your comprehension. So the first one is words from other languages. Neologisms can also be made by taking words and phrases from other languages to describe ideas or situations that may not have a direct translation in the language of the borrowing. These are some examples. So the term bonsai, which is Japanese in origin, refers to the practice of cultivating little trees in pots. And yoga is a term for a physical, mental, and spiritual activity that has its roots in ancient India and is derived from the Sanskrit language.
Blending. Blending is the process of mixing two or more words to create a new term while deleting parts of the original ones. The majority of blend do not increase efficiency, which is extremely uncommon. In fact, until readers and listeners understand what the source words are and what they represent, they make comprehension more difficult, at least at first. Here are some examples. Frenemy is a blend of two words, friend and enemy, referring to a person who possesses a friend but is really an enemy. Guesstimate is a combination of the words guess and estimate, used to describe an unofficial or rough estimation.
The third one is neologisms that add a prefix or a suffix to change the form of an existing word. Neologisms are newly created words or phrases often formed by prefixing or suffixing previously used words to give them new forms or meanings. New words and phrases are frequently created to express new concepts in cutting edge technologies since language is constantly changing. These are some examples. Vlog, VLOG, the prefix is the V. Vlog is a word that denotates video vlogging, or a vlog in video format is created by adding the letter V from video to the word vlog. And email. The prefix is the letter E and it stands for electronic, and added to mail, it means electronic mail.
Phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are verbal constructions that include one or more particles, such as prepositions or adverbs that increase a single meaning. The invention of new phrasal verbs to express particular ideas or activities is another example of neologism. These are some examples. Often as a result of unwelcome interference, scroll jacking is the sense of losing control over the scrolling activity on a website or app. Deepfake is a term that combines deep and fake to denote the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence to produce highly realistic but false video or audio content.
And the fifth type is called slang. But before describing this neologism, we are going to listen to some UPTC foreign languages students discussing slang from their perspectives and thoughts. They will share with us their opinions about the following questions. Are you familiar with the term slang? Do you deal with slang during your university studies? Should slang be taught in a planned and systematic way? Do you use slang in your oral and written communication? With whom? What are your favorite English slang terms?
Okay, are you familiar with the term slang? Yes, I'm very familiar with that term because that is the very informal words and idioms that can be spoken in a conversation of two people. That is normally used in formal situations and sometimes that it's socially unacceptable vocabulary that is used over there.
Given the complexity of social linguistics processes that drive the production and use of slang, it is challenging to establish a simple explanation of the term. Slang is described in certain contexts in an encouraging manner and in others in an adverse way. The most frequent adjectives used to define slang are colloquial, short-lived, lively, fun, faddish, vulgar, taboo, and racy.
I deal with this slang term during my university studies due to the importance of this slang to appropriate yourself of the foreign language. In this case, of the English language, is very important for my university studies.
Well, do you deal with slang during the university studies? That is not often, but sometimes yes, because my classmates use different terminologies to speak about one topic, or probably they use idioms or slang to speak about their lives.
The majority of definitions of slang have a tendency to adopt the so-called sociological theory of the phenomenon, which essentially views slang as a social tool for group identification and cohesion.
Should slang be taught in a planned and systematic way? I consider that should be taught and planned to students because they need to know what other people are speaking about. So when you don't understand the topic that other people are speaking, probably they are being rude with you and you are not noticing it.
Slang should be taught in a systematic way. I think that slang should be, of course, taught due to the importance of the connection with the people, connection with the culture, connection with situations that slang creates. Not only formal English should be taught, but also all the expressions that might sound a little bit disrespectful sometimes, or even worse than the formal language.
Here are some examples of the most common slangs and their meanings. Dead serious, which means very serious. LOL, laugh out loud. Bae means sweetheart. And bromance is a male friendship.
I use oral slang most of the times. I use written slang when I text somebody in English, like with the words "ain't." That contraction I use a lot.
You use slang in your communication? Well, no often because in academic terms, I'm always using my communication in the best possible way. But when I need to use the oral skill, in the speaking skill, sometimes with my friends, I use slang.
Words for emotional highs and lows, success and failure, expressing acceptance and disapproval, as well as terms for assessing others and pejorative names for outsiders and women that depict them as objects or animals, are all available to users of slang.
My favorite slang terms are yikes, dope, lit, damn, flex.
And my favorite slang terms are, as I said before, "ain't" as a contraction to negate something. And what else? I would say "gonna," "gotta," and "wanna," because those slang terms are really useful to make contractions and to simplify words that people are gonna, of course, understand for their simplicity.
So, this is it for today. We truly hope you have found this podcast really informative and that you have learned something new. If you want to listen to some more about a new subject, tune in to the upcoming one. We will back soon with a new episode. Thanks for listening and bye.